Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Music Den. I'm your host, Armando Venditti. Without his glasses today, I'm going to wing it. Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing you another episode of Now Hear This. But before we get into the albums that we're going to be discussing and the idea for the premise of the show, I'd like to welcome back to the channel Mr. Jim Bricker. How's it going, Jim?
I'm doing well, Armando. Happy to be back with you talking about music and stuff.
Good that you're back. Ladies and gentlemen, Now Hear This was another wonderful idea of Jim's where he thought we could bring you a list of albums that have been recently released, but albums that you pretty much would probably be off the beaten path, albums that you probably wouldn't have known existed. Without further ado, we have a list of six albums, so it's going to be a pretty lengthy episode. Depending on how Jim and I communicate during this episode, could be however long. Without further ado, I will pass the virtual mic over to Jim, and we'll start with our list of six wonderfully new released albums. Take it away, Jim.
Okay. Well, thank you, Armando. Glad that we have a platform to talk about these things. I'm going to be open and upfront and say, I don't think any of these are going to be top 40. It certainly isn't Sabrina Carpenter territory, that's for darn sure.
No.
And a lot of these kind of um, circle around the kind of the same continent, if you will, of musical styles. But there's a lot of variety in here, and I think there could be something for everyone. And at the very least, um, in this exchange, I think you would probably be a good representative of the new listener, because I would dare say, and correct me if I'm wrong, that most of these are probably not, in your normal wheelhouse of listening either, right?
No, no,
No?
they're not,
Okay.
which is
All
fine.
right. Well, I look forward to hearing what your takes are on some of these. So let's get into it and talk about the the album Bloom from the band Larkin Poe. Now, Larkin Poe is two sisters who have been playing around for a very long time. Some of their all of their releases have been kind of bluesy and rootsy. But this one just seems to kind of they've found the amplifiers and plugged them in, and boy, this is a lot of fun. This album, it's very feisty and bold.
I would
There's
agree.
a there's a lot of raw energy in this, but it's very melodic. It's not strictly blues, it's not strictly rock, it's not strictly country, but it's kind of this great melding of those three. And together they're just, it's a fantastic listen, a fantastic album. There's just to spotlight a couple of songs. One called "Fool Out of Me," to me, would be like the epitome of a country rock radio song. At least if I programmed the radio station, I would try to gear towards stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm normally not a country music fan, but I like some of the elements of it, especially if things get a little bluegrassy, like Alison Krauss and Union Station, the albums from Lyle Lovett or Elvis Costello, when they, are kind of doing more of a country thing. I like the flavor and the timbre that comes from that. And this album kind of speaks to that, but in much more of a raw Zeppelin-y fashion. Um, the other song, just to highlight here, called "You Are the River," sounds like it's been ripped from the Tedeschi Trucks Band playbook, and that's not a bad thing because Tedeschi Trucks is all about blues, rock, soul, country, jazz. I mean, it's this great melding of all those. So the Larkin Poe album is Bloom. It's highly recommended, and if you get the chance to see these gals live or just look at what they've done on YouTube, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised at what they bring in. So that's my
Hmm.
first one to serve up for people to check out, Larkin Poe.
I'm
Um,
I've listened to the first couple of tracks. I mean, um, I've listened to all six out a couple of tracks, the first couple of tracks from all six releases that on the list this morning.
mhm.
There is a definite blues rock feel um, in the music, and in terms of the vocal delivery, the vocal phrasings, very emotional and very from the heart, like very guttural um,
Mhm.
interpretations on the vocals. So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It just kind of dawned on me that it's probably in a similar wheelhouse to Janis Joplin, but not
Yeah,
as aggressive and psychedelic.
yeah. Yeah, two down, dial it back a couple of steps from Janis Joplin's vocal delivery, and that's what you've got. Yeah, no, I get 100%. I've listened to two tracks, Mockingbird, the first two, and Easy Love Part One.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's very emotionally charged. Somebody done somebody wrong song kind of a thing, but done in a rocking uh, format. So yeah, it's good. It is good.
Yeah. I think I mentioned I name dropped Elvis Costello before. I believe Elvis is a pretty big supporter of these gals, and I think he has toured with them or at least brought them along for a couple of shows. So um, if you trust Elvis, take his word for it. Go
Yeah.
check that out.
Calling Elvis. All right. All
All
right.
right,
That's
let's
fine. Good.
dip into the second record here to recommend, and this is 180 degrees from what we just talked about with Larkin Poe.
Yeah.
This is a band from Denmark called Oh People, and this album is called Part-Time Elegance. Um, Now, this was a band I've never heard of, but I just saw it as a new release and thought, okay, well, this might be, it looked interesting, so let's take a listen. And wow, am I glad that I did. I did not have on my bingo card an album that felt like it was dropped straight out of the 50s and 60s, and that felt like it should have been on like a Blue Note or Verve
Yeah. Yeah.
release,
Very
but
jazzy lounge
very,
kind of a feel. Yeah.
very jazzy lounge. Yeah.
Yeah.
The setup here is guitar, trumpet, sax, bass, and drums, and it's got the whole album is very loungy. So it's got this highly melodic, semi-bop feel, but with like a Latin undercurrent, thanks to the guitar that's there. Um, Sosa to me is a standout. It's a very mellow but very groovy tune, and these guys are definitely hearkening back to an earlier period of jazz, but it's not like derivative and not boring. I would these guys are not aping, you know, Miles Davis from like the mid to late 50s, but
Yeah.
you can hear elements of that in it. And so definitely their inspirations are coming from quite a good place musically. Um, so if you want something that would be probably perfect for some weekend listening around the house, you want something, if you're a jazz fan, a new band to kind of sink your teeth into, I would recommend the Oh People record. It was a delightful surprise.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, this was one that not that it's not in my wheelhouse, but I was surprised by it too, pleasantly so, and I knew exactly the type of situation, like in terms of music. Yeah, I mean, very how can I put this? It again, music conjures up images for me, and to me, listening to this album from Old People, you can just imagine, 1950s, mid 1950s America with, the house and the car and the 2.5 kids and, the the father smoking his pipe, sitting in the living room, listening to this album on an old, stereo record player kind of thing, and he's holding the cover up and he's reading the notes on the back of this is that kind of a feel to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
sure. Sure.
Very
It-
Karina
it-
Karina. From the movie Karina from movie.
uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah, that kind of feel. So yeah. But it's good. It's good. It is.
Yeah, I guess the as you were describing that, the image I had in my head was Hugh Beaumont and Barbara Billingsley leaving Wally and Beaver at home and going out for a night in the big city, and they're, drinking martinis and enjoying the nightclub in whatever little restaurant they happen to
Yeah,
be at. So
yeah, yeah, yeah. Too
that
vivid.
works.
I mean, what was my picture
Too
too?
vivid? I don't know.
No, but that was what it conjured up for me, and I was like, oh, this is good. This is all right. I could get into
All
this.
right,
So
cool. As long as I'm not getting an outright mm, no from you, I feel like I'm doing all right.
you're fine. You're fine.
All right.
Go
No
for
Black
it.
MIDI on this episode. So, um,
Thank Christ. Go on.
yeah. The next selection,
Yeah.
with still within kind of the jazz wheelhouse, but this is even more basic. This is a piano bass drums configuration, and the band is called GTO Trio,
Hmm.
and the album is called Within. Kind of has that little 50s vibe with that cover of just what looks like, a couple of neurons or an atom spinning around.
Yeah.
So it reminds me of the 50s a little bit. But
Yeah, it does.
this is not a throwback album. It's modern enough in that um you can definitely tell it's from this century. But it's not like boundary pushing to the point of being, dissonant in any case whatsoever.
Hmm.
To me, this is, like I said, it's the basics of jazz, piano, bass, drums, and when all the instruments are and the musicians are in harmony, it's a glorious thing, even with
Yeah.
just three instruments. And I think this album is definitely a glorious thing. It
Hmm.
swings, it sways, it comforts, it bounces and bops and weaves and leaps and cavorts. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, these guys have a real command and facility of their instruments and are able to get a lot of mileage out of just the simple piano bass drum concept. There's a song on here called Kachi that has kind of this gypsy feel in the beginning before it settles into some blues chords and then kind of goes into like a Spanish feel for almost the rest of the song.
Hmm.
Um, it's a real and to me the song is a real good example of something that kind of invites the listener in, and it's almost like, they're kind of playing with the listener with a little bit of like hide and seek. um, there's this slinky bass solo that's happening in there, and
Hmm.
then it just kind of continues on its, bopping and weaving and cavorting until it finally just sort of settles down and you feel like you've been on this melodic, playful but comforting journey. I mean, it's really strange for me to kind of describe, music in that way, but I think it's really apropos with this release. I think this GTO Trio album is it's a definite winner. And I'm inclined to go find any more of their releases should they exist. I believe this is primarily available on Bandcamp.
Okay.
Um, as I think m most of these albums may be just available through there, but
Yeah.
again, well worth seeking out. And I think Armando, you were going to include links to some of these things in the description.
I will.
Okay. So what did you think of GTO Trio?
Again, listening to the first couple of tracks, like Water and Only for G, you definitely get that sophista jazz feel for me.
Okay.
Just very calming, very soothing. Uh, it I was going to say Calgon, take me away. It's it takes you on a journey musically, and you
Hmm.
just it's like an old friend that comes to visit. Sit
Okay.
down, you have a drink, you have a cup of coffee, whatever. I'm not a drinker, I have a coffee or a tea, but you sit down, you have a nice conversation with an old friend for however long this album is, and you're left in a altered state. But when I mean altered state, I mean you're left better off than when you started after listening to this album
Hmm.
because it lets you forget your troubles for a while, which is what music does for most people. So
Yeah, not a bad thing to kind of have the Calgon treatment.
yeah, yeah, Calgon, yeah, that's a '70s reference right there. Yeah,
There you go.
seriously, I'm aging myself, but no, that's how I felt. It's like I've always said certain albums take you on a journey. It's like you can put on a set of headphones. Let me rephrase it this way. This isn't the kind of album that you put on it after a day at work or on the weekend, whether it's raining outside, you don't want to go anywhere, or it's like, inclement weather, or at night, you put the kids to bed, or you're just on your own. You turn on the album, and the only light in the room is the lights coming off of the components of the stereo.
Hmm.
And you sit in the dark basically, and you close your eyes, and you're off. The music takes you. That's how I relate to it.
Well said.
So
Okay.
there you go. Long-winded, but there you go.
This next album has a different kind of take you away experience.
Oh, okay.
And I'm curious to what you thought of the release called We Are the Levers by the band The Levers, which is a Turkish power trio that is blazes some serious trails. And I know there were some times where musically I kind of was wondering if I was getting a bit of whiplash just keeping up with their movements from like spaghetti western to acid jazz to stoner rock, all within the same tunes.
Yeah.
Um,
I I like this album. I listened again to the first couple of tracks, The Gathering, which is at 10 minutes, 21 seconds, and Whispers and Lullabies, which is like 9 minutes plus. Um, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't find this as heavy as stoner rock. Um,
okay,
I found this very melodic,
yeah,
experimental, lush, textured, dare I say, opulent, because there's a lot of soundscapes going on, guitar
definitely.
treatments, and soundscapes, and fuzz guitar, and guitar treatment, guitar textures used as a backdrop to the rest
Hmm.
of the music. You're sort of wrapped up in the guitar treatments and textures. I love that.
Hmm.
I love that. How can I put this diplomatically? Um, it's how can I put this? Hmm.
You don't got to be diplomatic on my account. Go for it.
Well, I'm trying to. Okay, its complexity lies in its simplicity.
Okay.
That's how I see
Say
it.
it. Okay. I
Yeah.
like that.
I just I like what I'm hearing so far, and I think it's great. Yeah. No, I
Well, well, if you like the first couple of tunes, I would definitely encourage listening through the whole rest of it because it's all in that wheelhouse and then some.
and then some.
Yeah, the final track, the 21-minute conclusion,
Ooh,
kind of builds from this gentle pulse into kind of a Pink Floyd style jam where
well,
like
I'm there.
echoes meets dogs, but then it kind of goes off on this wave of some melodic, almost shredding and resolving into like some nasty thunderous blues. And that's just the first 4 minutes.
Okay, and okay. Okay. Now I'm intrigued. I'm interested now because this is something I could listen to and really sort of sink my sonic teeth into it, and just get a lot of get a lot out of it. But for me,
Yeah,
what would put it over the top and maybe too far would be the, let's say, growling vocals a la early Opeth.
I I don't recall if there's any vocals in here.
Okay. No,
I think it's all instrumental.
but are you okay? Are you familiar with early Opeth, like Michael
Oh,
Oakenfold?
yes, the Cookie Monster.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You need Cookie Monster vocals on top of this would have just it would have soured the soup. Do you know what I mean?
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
um,
Yeah, I mean, this definitely has,
and
if you've got a foot in like prog
yeah,
or prog metal, there's bits of that
yeah,
that are in here, but you don't need to worry about, you know, early Opeth style vocals.
yeah. No, and that's good. And for those viewers watching, for those of you who are familiar with the movie The War of the Roses, you know what I'm talking about spoiling the soup. So, we won't go there. But
Too late.
well, you got the reference, but we won't mention it.
Fair
Um,
enough.
there you go. Oh no, I personally I this album I think is great. I think it's fantastic. What
Yeah,
up?
I was again not expecting. I go into a lot of these albums really not expecting much. I just kind of see like a reference to it on YouTube, or I do my own
Yeah,
investigations of albums that have like come out in the week. And if it has a title that looks interesting to me, or it's from a record label that I'm kind of familiar with, I'm going to be willing to check it out. But yeah, I think up to this point, when we're recording this, I think I've listened to about 40 different 2025 releases, and I'm really just trying to share the ones that I think are just stellar standouts.
well, it's appreciated, and that's a lot to listen to. That
It
is,
is a lot to listen to, and man,
it's a
you got to
lot to listen to.
wade through a lot of turds, or
Oh
just wade through stuff that's like, this
no,
is really good and solid, but it's not that next level.
believe me, the word turd that does fit for some of the releases that I've heard over the past. Yeah, it's fine. No,
Yep.
it's good. It's good.
All
This
right.
isn't like this is an album I would definitely uh listen to more and check out and purchase.
Yeah. I'm got my finger wavering over that button as well.
Yeah, payday
Um,
is coming for me, so
there you go. Shall we move on to the next one?
please do, my dear boy, please do.
Okay, so this is an album. Um, I believe the gentleman's name is Harri Kuusijärvi.
Kuusijärvi. Okay.
That's what I'm going with. And
All
the
right.
album is called Aallot. Aallot. Now, this is a trio album, um, where the setup is bass, drums, and electronically extended accordion.
That's what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yes. Now, this is not,
Ooh, I thought
I
he
know
was
there's
having a
people.
stroke. Okay. And when I heard this, I wasn't sure. Okay, go on. Go
So this is not
on.
a candidate for use an accordion, go to jail, because this guy has really taken some leaps and steps. The first time I had heard accordion kind of used in this way was from a band called K2. And they had an album called Eight Armed Monkey. And it is Trey Gunn and Pat Mastelotto from King Crimson, and a couple of other guys, I believe, from um, the Nordic countries somewhere. Forgive me for not not having researched as part of it. I'm just talking off the top of my head. And it was, Trey on, war guitar, Pat Mastelotto on drums and electronics and whatnot, and some guy on accordion. And again, it's just like Sometimes it's recognizable as accordion, sometimes it's just completely out to lunch. That's another album. Again, highly recommended. But this one, a lot.
It's a lot.
It is a lot. At times this kind of floats like Miles Davis in a quiet way, or Talk Talk Spirit of Eden,
Hmm.
or it just has a like a spiritual jazz pulse from like late 60s, early 70s.
Hmm.
Sometimes this is like some techno down tempo acid jazz or just gentle swing. I mean, it's really hard to pinpoint um, just one specific reference point to kind of connect this to. But, if you're pretty musically adventurous, I think you would like this. It is um, all instrumental. Um,
Yeah.
and it's just, to me, it's outstanding just because it's so creative and inventive. And,
Yeah, it is.
this is not just like this is not an album for accordion freaks only, because what's going on with the bass and the drums is just really tasty throughout.
It's an
Please.
album that transcends because I mean it's I'm glad you explained to me that it's an electronic accordion. I thought maybe it was an accordion through a MIDI application or setup, you know,
I'm not sure exactly what the setup is, and he may be,
but
middying some stuff in there, triggering different things.
but there's a lot of textures, a lot of colors, as Prince would say, musically on this. I'm not going to go into those colors, but there's a lot of soundscapes and uh, feel good sentiment for me to listen to this album. It just, again, it's another album that takes you on a journey and you don't mind where you're going because it takes you away from whatever it is you're dealing with at the moment and you're just like gone, right? Musically,
Hmm.
musically, you're flying, right? With the
Right.
album, which I think is fantastic.
Y-
I think any type of music, whether it be okay, the Cookie Monster vocals with Opeth or whatever, any type of music that takes you in a good way out of your present frame of mind, whatever that frame of mind is, if you're willing to let that happen, I think that's a good thing.
hmm
I think that's a good thing. So this
Yeah,
is
to get
no,
the expression that comes to mind is lost in the sauce, and definitely you get lost in, a lot. We Are the Weavers. I mean,
there's a
the
lot of
part-time elegance. Yeah,
there's a lot of sauce on this list, believe me.
it's
Believe me.
saucy.
Oh, it's saucy, all right. Oof,
Yeah,
but not salty. There's a difference. There's a difference. Don't put too much salt in the sauce. That way it screws it right up.
no,
Um,
no salty dogs here. No.
yeah, yeah, no, don't even
Yeah,
go
this
there.
this this a lot release really is just fantastic. And again, this is another Bandcamp album, and so you can stream it from there, purchase the download. The If you're a CD guy like I am, it's like limited to 200, and I think I'm going to push the button and pay the premium price to get this, because it's just really fantastically well done.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, if if it if you're so inclined to do so, please do so. I mean, it's fantastic. It's great.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
great.
Glad
Great.
you like it.
Hmm.
So let's move to the last one, which may be the one that requires the most discussion.
Woo-hoo-hoo!
So now this album is one you've heard before, or at least you've heard of before,
Yeah.
and you would recognize it by the title Remain in Light.
Hmm.
However, the artist that is tied to this is Jazzified.
Hmm.
And what Jazzified has done is taking the Talking Heads' Remain in Light album and reinterpreted it as if it was from a swinging jazz style from the 1950s.
Oh, yeah.
So
Something's swinging
imagine
here.
what's that?
Something swinging here, that's for sure. Go on.
Hey, yes, exactly. Now,
Bum, bum.
I also need to say that this is an AI creation. Now, personally,
Okay.
I don't see how someone it can't be as simple as typing into Chat GPT, recreate the tracks of Remain in Light as if they were recorded from the 1950s by Keely Smith. But that's what these guys have produced. Now, um, let's talk about the AI thing a little bit. Um, Personally, I am not for AI, um, shall we say, eliminating the roles of musicians or composers or whatever.
I would agree.
However,
I would agree. I would also add that this was the fear that musicians and other people in the performing arts, writers, etc., had that fear of
yep,
happening. So yes, our fears have
yeah,
come true.
exactly.
Yeah.
There are, I mean, this is not perfect. If anything, to me, this would sound like I'll call it a beta version of what someone might take and arrange, real charts and a real band to go and perform. And frankly, I would pay big money to see a band like Postmodern Jukebox or something like that take these arrangements of these Talking Head songs
Yeah.
and perform them live. So from the just the AI standpoint, it's a little glitchy. There's mispronouncing of words like little, out, night, messages, everyone, divine, defend, bodies, like. I mean, you can catch them.
You, you brought up a point to me because I've seen a little side note, big surprise on this channel, a little side tangent. I've seen videos with narration lately, and you can tell that it's AI generated, and because the pronunciation of certain words is wrong.
Hmm.
In other words,
Yes,
they put the wrong they put the emphasis on the wrong syllable, and
yes, they do.
and you can tell. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who believe in AI and support it, you're wrong. I'm sorry. You can tell the difference. You
Yeah,
really can. From an individual doing a narration to a, an automated narration track coming through, you can tell the difference. I'm
right.
sorry. Uh, that's my ignorance in my viewpoint. I don't care, but it's what I feel. So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no, and like I said, I'm not for replacing the creator, but if it's a way that you can sort of generate an arrangement that may help spur the thought process even further, maybe it is a useful tool. AI, I know that many students use it as sort of like a template for them to sort of understand, like if they're doing a literary analysis of Mice of Men or whatever, and it might be a good way for them to open themselves up to some of the themes that they need to explore further.
Yeah.
However, what a lot of people do is take what's spat out of Chat GPT and paste it into their essay and turn it into their teacher, and the teacher goes, "Yeah, here's your F because you didn't actually do anything." And so
Exactly.
there,
And yeah.
that's where the line is for me.
And well, the line, my point on that is, I, I, I think that how can I put this? It's going to become oversaturation because it probably already
Hmm.
is. Because if you remember, like, we'll look at it in terms of music, in terms of the type of music that has been released over the past X number of years. Think of the
Hmm.
80s. Think of the 80s, where synthesizers came into the in full blown mode with sequencers and drum machines. Everything became electronic and programmed, and we
Hmm.
were saturated. We were hit over the head with anything programmed and sequenced and using synthesizers to the point
Hmm.
where there was a backlash musically, and then we went the other.
Sure.
We, I I think, and then, yeah, we went the other way musically. I think that that's what's going to happen with AI. I don't think we're there yet, but I think it's going to happen where
Hmm.
people are going to revolt against using tech technology on this level and go back to using their own using their minds and intelligence to create what they need to create.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I don't disagree with you at all. And there have been plenty of albums out there already on, YouTube and the interwebs, like, what if the Beatles was a grunge band, or if Rubber Soul had or Revolver had been like a Motown record, and different things like that. And what they end up doing is they have to change the melody line, or else they're going to end up, getting in copyright infringement, and they're going to get sued by Lennon and McCartney and whoever.
Yeah.
And this interpretation of Remain in Light does that same sort of thing, where it's altering the original melody line, um, but um, it just freaking works. This is the first album that I've heard of this genre where I'm just like, they nailed it 100%, because you know just the opening track, Born Under Punches, it takes all of Burns' manic lyrical lines and puts them into this jazz swing arrangement with a vocalist that sounds like it might have been Keely Smith or Ella Fitzgerald, or someone kind of cut from that cloth.
Hmm.
And it's just it there's saxes, clarinets, trumpets, acoustic bass, certainly all electronic, not
Hmm.
not real. Piano, drums that move from brushes to just outright Louis Bellson slamming. I mean, it's just fantastic, the way that this got interpreted. And you could probably say, all right, I want to do Remain in Light as a death metal album or chamber pop or something like that, but putting it within this context of this swing 50s jazz feel is just fantastic. It's a radical rearrangement, but your fingers are snapping, and I found myself just rejoicing in just what they were able to do. And by the time you're listening to Once in a Lifetime, and you get to that line of my God, what have I done, it's just like touchdown, 100 points. I mean, it was just fantastic the way that they worked that interpretation. And again, I wish I had an understanding of how much of this they just sort of put into a program and just said execute, and how much they tweaked and sort of moved things around to get exactly the kinds of feel that they wanted.
Yeah.
Because like I said, if you took these arrangements as sort of a beta version, gave it to a band like Postmodern Jukebox and say, you know, take this live and play it on the road, I would pay big bucks to see this, because it's just such a delight. It's so fun to hear this music interpreted as that genre. Um, and I get, from talking about AI, that there are people who are just going to have sort of a principled stance against it, and I totally appreciate that. But for those with ears to hear, just to kind of appreciate the vision and creativity that was brought by someone saying, "What if?" and then having the chops and know-how to kind of bring that "what if" to life. I mean, I appreciate it on that level greatly, and I just think this is an outstanding effort. I didn't just stream it; I went to Bandcamp and I bought it, just because I was just so in love with what they've produced. So that's me spewing about it. I'll pause.
No, I can't get
You can't get into it, huh?
I can't get behind it right now. I'm yeah.
Is it more of a just kind of an aesthetic thing about the AI, or just
No,
the fact that it's
I didn't even know that it was created through AI, number one. Number two, it's too tranquil for me. It's too cerebral. I mean, 20 more seconds, I would have been in a coma. I mean, I don't, it just, no. I, it just doesn't hit me the same way it hits you. I'm sorry.
okay? Okay,
Um,
so something like their version of Once in a Lifetime, you didn't get it. It just didn't hit for you.
no, no, maybe I should spend more time with it. I mean, but I, yeah, this is the one.
Maybe it's one of those things that you're. I believe I'm correct in saying that you're not as immersed in Talking Heads as I am.
Okay, you would be correct on that. Yes.
Are you correct on that?
Hmm.
But for people who are in that same wheelhouse as me, they've listened to this and their response is just you
Wow.
know eye popping, laugh out loud. I burned the uh, the purchase that I made onto a CD and played it in the car, and then happened to have my older sons in the car with me, and they're of course very familiar with Talking Heads and Once in a
Of
Lifetime. It's
course.
been part of their, I'm a good father. I trained my children well, so of course they're familiar with Once in a Lifetime. And
What's John Michael gonna say when he hears that? I don't know when he watches this episode. He's been trained well. I didn't say it. John Michael, your father did. Go on.
they've been reared on the classics. We'll put it like that.
Okay. 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 Too little,
um,
too late, but go on.
Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, to hear, they both, once they got what they were hearing, and they got it once within the first verse, once it started in,
Yeah.
they're just like, "Oh my gosh," and they just started laughing and thought it was amazing. And when I told them it was AI, they just kind of looked at me and said, "You're kidding." So, um,
You see, if you didn't tell me that, I wouldn't have known. But it's just musically for me, it's not something that I can, I guess, again, sink my teeth into sonically. I can't.
mhm,
Again, maybe maybe I need to sit with it some more and listen to it some more and just let it soak in, you know.
mhm. Well, certainly, if you have not only the background for Talking Heads, but also have like listened to, Louis Prima and Keely Smith and like some late 50s Ella Fitzgerald, you kind of get what's happening rhythmically and musically and whatnot. Um, but yeah, this is it's a big winner for me. It's a big loser for Armando.
Yeah.
However, I would encourage the the good people who watch this to kind of check it out for themselves and see
Of
see what their
course. No,
take
I
on it
mean,
is.
of course, ladies and gentlemen, any of the albums that we present to you on this channel, the new releases, the off the beaten path releases, the obscure, check them out for yourself. Don't take or my word for it or our word for it as being the gospel truth of any album being the best thing since sliced bread or the worst thing. You know, listen for yourself and make up your own mind. I mean, that's what this is all about. So no, again, maybe I need to listen to, at least I need to listen to it again some more and just get into it. And I mean,
And
there
there
was
and there are some things, just as we kind of alluded to, I think before we started the tape rolling here, was that there are some things that just people don't connect with, whether it's,
exactly.
Cookie Monster Opeth, or maybe like, Laurie Anderson, or, Diamanda Gallis, or I don't know, New Order. I mean, there are some bands that and styles that just don't connect with people,
Exactly.
and it's just that's the grand tapestry of life, babies, right there. So,
Well, it would be boring if we liked everything we heard or if we agreed on everything and be like, okay, these episodes would be 20 seconds. Okay, good night, folks. We both like it. Good night. And that'd be it. So it, it's the differences of opinion and the differences of what we like that make up these episodes and what we can share. I mean, that's fine. I mean,
yeah,
like the fact that you can't connect with Queen. Uh,
hmm
am I gonna hold,
that's
am I gonna hold that against you, my good sir? No. You know, I would never do that to you. So, I mean,
well, I appreciate that.
there you go. There you go.
And I appreciate the willingness to kind of dive into some of these things that, wouldn't cross your transom normally. And, I'm glad that for something like, the Levers, that really kind of trips your trigger. And there's bands, and albums like A Lot or, Within that kind of, you know, have neurons firing a little bit here and there. I
Yeah.
appreciate the time to be able to share some of this stuff. So,
No, well, no, that's fine. And I appreciate the fact that you want to share this, you know, information and, with of these albums with me on the channel. That's why we're here, you know. Um,
yep.
so there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Six new albums on the recent episode of Now Hear This. Please check out these albums on Bandcamp. Um, if you're able to, and let us know down in the comments below what you feel of these about these albums, or feel of or about these albums. And again, there are no right or wrong answers, just opinion, and that is what we're here for, and to provide just opinion. Again, we're not music experts. We don't know everything and anything there is to know about music. We're discovering as much as you are at the same time, and that's what makes it fun. You know.
Harumph. I
There you,
agree.
there you go. So, for Mr. Jim Bricker, I am Armando Venditti signing off for now. Please click like and subscribe and hit the notification bell to keep yourselves on top of any new content I've got coming up. We've got more shows we're working on that we're, how would you put that, in development that we're going to bring to you as soon as we humanly can. And again, please look after yourselves and one another, and we'll see you soon with more videos. Bye for now.